History isn't just what happened, it's who we are. And now you can explore Africa's incredible past like never before. Introducing the new and engaging course catalog from aelearning.net, a world-class provider of interactive e-learning focused on Africa's rich and diverse history. From the rise of ancient Nubia and the power of the Mali Empire, to the architectural wonders of Egypt and the development of astrological knowledge by the Dogon people, each self-paced course brings history to life through stunning visuals, immersive video lessons, and interactive assessments. Designed for students, educators, and lifelong learners around the world, AE Learning's courses make discovering Africa's story easier, deeper, and more engaging than ever. With AE Learning, education meets flexibility. Whether you're a student, teacher, or lifelong learner, our platform gives you access to credible knowledge, rich multimedia lessons, and tools that make learning African history engaging and unforgettable. Join thousands of learners already rediscovering Africa's past and shaping its future. Visit www.aelearning.net today. Start your journey through Africa's past today, because the story of Africa is the story of us all. AE Learning, inspiration through high-quality education.
Danfo offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshi traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danfo, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danfo, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danfo, Africa. To learn more, visit danfo.africa.
Peace, family. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. Thank you all. Thanks so much for joining. Hit that like button. You guys know the drill. Hit that like button. Make sure you share. Make sure you subscribe. Before we get started, before we bring on our guest, our special guest, the Kushite Mystic, got a couple of announcements. Announcement number one, we are rolling to Senegal next month. We are rolling to Senegal next month for the Jazz Festival, St. Louis Jazz Festival. If you're a last minute traveler and you're like, listen, Dynasty, we got to get out. We got to head out the country. We want to go to Africa and know it's last minute. Well, I got a last minute spot for you. So visit donfo.africa. Again, please visit donfo.africa to learn more. We are also going to Nigeria in August for Oshun, for the Oshun Festival. Zanzibar in September for Safari Blue. Ghana and Ivory Coast in November, along with Sierra Leone. And then we're going to, beginning of the year, we're going to do Benin in January for the Voodoo Festival. So if you guys are interested in joining, please visit donfo.africa to learn more. Would love to host you on one of our many, I don't like saying tours, we're going to call them experiences. And, you know, on the website, you know, we're going to change tour to experiences because it's just, you know, like these are, you know, experiences, if that makes sense. So again, please visit Africa to learn more. Guys, make sure you get them likes up. What we'll do, we'll put the link in the chat room here shortly. So if you guys have any questions and want to call in, you're more than welcome to call in and ask your question. Without further ado, we got a special guest, you guys, the Kushite Mystic. And we're going to be discussing because I left LA in 2014. I know it's changed a whole lot, but when it came to African spiritual identity, it was really centered around Lamert Park. You know, that's where everything was centered. If you wanted to deal with like the conscious community, experience the conscious community, African centered, it was more Lamert Park. But I don't know how things are going now because it's been a while. So we had our Babalao on Sunday. He discussed African spirituality and urban city like New York, and wonder how that looks like now these days in LA, because LA there's a lot going on. So we're gonna bring on our shaman, our mystic, Kushite Mystic out there. How you doing? In fact, we got to give you a round of applause. Let me hold on. We got to bring you in right. Give me a second. Where's my here we go. Here we go. Where's the bam? There we go.
Give thanks.
Give thanks. Thanks.
Give
How you doing?
thanks. I'm well. Peace, peace. I'm well. I
How's
have
LA?
I have breath, I say.
Okay, there you go. How's LA? It's been so long. Like I got LA. So I'm in Atlanta.
Hmm.
What I really miss about LA is the food. LA and New York has the best food.
Are
Atlanta
you a
food.
foodie?
Yeah, I'm greedy. I like to eat, and I know we'll get into that here in a second. I know you're Black American Ethiopian, so my greedy butt. I forgot which Ethiopian restaurant it was on Fairfax. I
Okay.
would go like for lunchtime. They would have an all-you-can-eat buffet,
Oh, nice.
so I would go there sometimes and
I
and and
have to be partial to all the restaurants on Fairfax because I grew up with all of them. So
right, right.
yeah,
If you guys don't know Fairfax, that's in LA. That's Little Ethiopia. So
yes. Fun fact, I was actually on that inaugural board to designate Little Ethiopia.
Re-
And
oh, really? When,
yeah.
when was it officially Little Ethiopia? Because I moved
That
to LA in
was,
'08.
oh, I gotta look that up. My oldest son, who's 22 now, was just a few
Uh,
months old. So let's see. It was definitely some years back. I'll have
okay.
to look that up.
Yeah,
But
because when I
over, I'm sorry.
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Uh, it was definitely a collaboration of all the merchants there, community members, um, community leaders, a lot of petitioning, a lot of
Mhm.
organization, and I saw it as my opportunity to be like this liaison of between the African American community and the Habesha community and try to get us to see, how we
Mhm.
are one and the same here. Micro communities within the overall African diaspora community. Yeah, Little Ethiopia was a big moment. I think it was the only, and possibly still to this date, the only African designated town in the US. Well, it definitely was one of the first.
You have a point because I don't know like any little Nigeria official little Nigeria. Now Houston is like
Hmm.
has the largest Nigerian diaspora outside of Nigeria, but I don't know any little Nigerians or little. You know what? So maybe in Harlem you have that little. I don't know if we know it as Little Senegal, but I don't know if it has the official designation.
Official, right, right.
Right, right, right,
I know we had
right.
another movement, or there were some talks early on around that time for the same movement in DC around, I think, U Street and Adams Morgan. But one of the concerns, and I too was a concern of mine, was to make sure that that town, which is a historical African American community town, didn't
Mhm,
get overshadowed or taken over by the designation of Little Ethiopia. So
mhm.
I was one in that case that had to say, I don't think we could take this one.
So with that being said, you're part black, half Black American, half
Mhm.
Ethiopian. So you're like the best of both worlds, which we
That's what I
rarely
always
see.
say.
And you just brought up, in Washington D.C., historically, these days they will say FBA. I don't know if you know that term,
Yes.
FBA and ADOs. In this day and age, with the FBA and ADOS the way it is now, and I heard the term Solon now.
Mm.
If that area were to be designated Little Ethiopia, how do you think it would be received? Like,
Well, I think now that wave is kind of sailed, honestly.
mhm,
It was a huge concentration in that area. This was, like I said, about 20 years ago,
mhm,
where there was a wave, an influx of Ethiopian restaurants and markets. So much has changed now in the demographic, DC being gentrified is one.
mhm,
Also, the immigration issues that are happening now. A lot of businesses have, from what I heard, been kind of um, sleepy. And also, when rent increases and lease increases, you have to move. So I'm not sure. I was just there last September, actually, for my birthday. So my
mhm,
birthday, and I thought I was going to feel what I usually felt when I come to
mhm.
DC or the DMV area, that I'm in Little Ethiopia, but um, I hardly saw any of us, actually. So, but with possibly, I don't know if it's just unique to Ethiopian community, but our community kind of migrates still,
Really?
within
Oh,
LA.
okay.
So it's like we had mid Wilshire, and then once they pushed us out of there, or could no longer afford to be there because it's so expensive. We somebody moved to, let's say, like the Inglewood area, and then everyone moves to the Inglewood area. So we seem
Mhm.
to kind of move in this migration still, but at least we have something planted. Little Ethiopia as a designation, which I think is, for me, that area was, I believe, a lot of Jewish merchants and owners in the Fairfax area.
Probably still is.
It is. And
Mhm.
so I
And
didn't
Pico and
necessarily,
yeah.
yeah. So there was
Right.
no conflict of interest for me. Everything for my purpose and my mission, my personal mission as well, is highlighting and preserving African traditions and
Mhm.
customs and highlighting them. So there was no conflict in that area for me, at least. But like I say, in the DMV area, I would like to see it more inclusive of all African diaspora um, historical movements. So yes, Ethiopians are in this area as well. And then I want Ethiopian community to also know that it was a historical, or still is a historical preservation of African American culture with jazz and things like that. So it has to be more education and more community entanglement, if that's a positive
So
word to use still.
so with preserving African spirituality, customs, how does that look like in LA these days? I just remember Lamar Park. That's like that was the epicenter.
Hmm.
Is it still like that, or how's it?
So I am a Angelino, born and raised,
Okay.
first generation born, and that's a subtle difference too, right? Because you have
Mhm.
a transplant culture as well. I think Leimert Park is a beautiful hub for people seeking, people wanting to network and connect. It's been a lot of beautiful advocacy and awareness that's centered around Leimert Park right now, with conversations of gentrification and ownership, right? Like owning your
Right.
buildings and giving us more power to protect ourselves. It depends on what it looks like for you, honestly. Like I am one who creates community around me. So
Okay. Okay.
I have
Oh.
always been the hub of the
Okay.
community. And
Got you.
so I have created these communities within the community. But I do love to, every once in a while, be able to go to Lamar Park and know that you're at least going to hear some drum circle,
Mhm.
get some good herbs, some good shea butter, just kind of, get that flavor that you want. But now, actually, it is very beautiful to see that it's revamping again. So it's refacing. There's bookstores, there's places and conversations on healing.
If I can
And
interject real quick, you said Shea
sure.
Butter, Lamar Park. You must know my frat brother, Terrence, TK.
Do I'm a bit of a a very individual nomad, so I
Oh,
might
okay.
know him, but maybe not by
He's the
name.
shea butter king in Laurel Park, but go ahead.
Is
I'm
he
sorry.
okay?
Yeah, appreciate it. Go ahead.
But there's a mango shea butter that I love from oh, I want to get their name right because I definitely want to shout them out. I love theirs. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll take my children when they were young to
Mhm,
events that it's just a center that is ours. And that is very healing to know that you have somewhere to go. If you're experiencing burnout with work, if you work in an environment where
mhm,
you don't get to be with your community. I've curated my life where I'm surrounded by my community. I live in a neighborhood where I see us. I own my own businesses, so I've curated my life to protect me from being exhausted in environments that
mhm.
aren't ours.
Now you say you live in a community where you see us, like, LA, the demographics have changed. So what community
Yes,
are you
yeah.
in where you see us still outside of
I'm
Lamar
I'm
Park
in
and Lee Park?
I mean it's a small city, so no stalkers, please. I live in Carson,
Okay, Carson.
California,
Okay, okay, Carson.
which
Okay.
is like a unique place, honestly. Where I mean it's LA County, but
Mhm.
if you
By
ask,
Torrance.
some friends in Inglewood or Ladera and those areas, they might be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's not LA," but we are. It's a little 20 minutes, 25 minutes at the most, 30 maybe with traffic
Mhm.
from LAX. Yeah.
Now I'm familiar with Carson. So my
Okay.
job when I was in LA was in Torrance, like
Oh,
in
okay.
between Torrance and Manhattan Beach.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
shifted
I'm
dynamics
familiar.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carson is a very unique place. We have a very unique community of like the generation before us,
Mhm,
my parents' generation, and maybe a little bit, and also the generation above them. They were the county workers. So you have a lot of homeowners and,
mhm,
um, educators and county workers here who had, a pretty decent middle class life.
mhm. That's good.
Yeah.
All right,
Vers-
so,
mhm.
as far as, Kushite Mystic, let's dive into that, the spirituality aspect. What made you go take that path? Because, when I was me, I've taken a similar path,
Mhm.
and, people look at you like you're crazy,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to, indigenous, African spiritual systems because they've been demonized so much.
Right.
Um,
Right.
what made you go down that road, especially being Black American and Ethiopian?
One, I didn't have a choice, so it wasn't a
Mm,
decision I made. Spirit chose me, so I didn't have a
okay.
choice. But I could choose to honor it or choose to suffer hiding from it. Right. So I chose to stop hiding. Basically,
Mhm,
my life, I was fortunate and privileged enough to have a life of parents who I was raised in love. I was raised in compassion. I was raised free. I was not raised actually religious. So I
that's good.
had a very open space for my imagination to really cultivate and be seated by experiences and by honestly by source, right? Having parents who supported, even though if they didn't know how to navigate my gifts, they never shoved them or demonized them. So I was always safe in the home. I write about my life story actually in my book, Life Stories of a Modern Kushite
Imma
Mystic.
pull it up right now. Go
Okay,
ahead, continue.
thanks. And it's from birth till my early 40s. And it's where I share my journey about all the initiations and like basically the process because I get asked that question actually a lot. How did you become or how did you arrive here? What did you do? What was required of you? What support did you get? So it's really important for me to I saw that it was really important to share my life story to answer those questions. I did have a near death experience at birth, but both
Wow.
of my parents, as well, are gifted in their own way. Like my mom is really gifted in seeing the future. She's very intuitive, as most of us have the ability to be. She's very in tune, but also, my parents were a bit eclectic. My mom studied, she didn't raise us on nursery rhymes. She told us the truth about it, like,
Oh, wow,
that they
okay.
are nursery rhymes are rooted in death and we speak life into our children, right? um I images of toys that I had were in our own image, right? Being Black, being African was something to be proud of. So foundationally, I'm assuming and proclaiming that that is what has allowed me to be fearless in this process. But there's moments of where you feel, am I going to be accepted? I've learned to outgrow that looking for acceptance of who I am, but more so into just whoever I'm meant to touch and inspire or heal, so be it. And so there is no separation. There's never been a separation between my life and
Mhm.
the work, right? Like you are the vessel. So
Right.
um literally in my day-to-day life of rituals in my home, right? Like I've raised my children around and like of any talent, you have to exercise it. If I
Mhm.
was born with the gift to sing, you still have to exercise your voice. If I was a
Right.
talented at running and you want to be really skilled at running, track star, then you need to practice these things. So practice was really crucial for my confidence, I would say, you know. But it's been very difficult. I did not grow up with a mentor, spiritual mentor. I didn't grow up in a indigenous African spiritual community or anything.
Mhm.
I was just a very opened, aligned vessel. So the information was able to really come through to me very clearly since young.
Yeah. Shout out to Marie Shine. Yeah, I always have to give Marie her roses. She's our moderator. And she came with me to my first ever tour to Nigeria,
Mm.
2019 for the Oshun Festival. She rode with me. And so she's been down, 10 toes down. Well, she has quit several times, but she always comes back. She has threatened to quit several times, but she comes back. So we love her. Um, but shout out to Marie in the chat room. We love you, Marie. We love you. We love you. So just everyday life and what are some like small things? Because when it comes to African spirituality,
Mhm.
I hear no, you stop it, Marie. You stop it. I know a lot of black people say, well, Christianity um is easier because you just have to pray to Jesus.
Mhm.
And African spirituality is difficult because there's so many rituals and
Mm.
like in Ifa, you have to make elbow or divinations and
Mhm.
dafa and like I tell people like it's more about preserving the culture for me
Mhm.
uh than anything. Like what are some I don't want to use the word simple because I don't want to minimize it, but what are some simple or easy ways just to start implementing in everyday life, just African spirituality? Just
That's
some
a great
small things.
question. So
Uh,
one, and I agree, it can be extremely overwhelming. Um, so many branches of African spirituality.
mhm.
So even for myself, I have found that to its core, African spirituality is harmony with nature,
Mm,
its core, and the cosmos, right? So I actually, in my practice and my spiritual journey, is bringing African spirituality back to our roots, which is that alignment with nature, which
mhm.
makes it, not to simplify it, but
Right.
takes out a lot of that intimidation. And then once you understand you understand balance, harmony, nature, then you start understanding principles, you understanding color, light. Then you can understand and find that the root of whether it's Ifa, whether it's Santeria, whether it's Wakafina, that it's principles that we are trying to embody or express through deities as well. So in my practice, I encourage people that it first begins to root yourself in nature
Okay. I know.
and
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
and give yourself permission for that, right? And I mean, you don't, it's not outside of you. Africa is not outside of you. It's in you.
Mm,
It's a DNA. It's a code. It's a genetic that it's a gene that doesn't come exclusively in a language or in what you attach yourself to, right? I also, and when I identify as a Kushite mystic, I use the word modern because my goal is to reach as many people as I can. So if
mhm,
I don't have to be in ritual and in trance, in a meditative trance state through drum in order to retrieve this person's soul, if I can, if it just is required for me just to be in focus, intention, and place my hand on someone, I'm gonna get to the objective and what's going to get me to the goal first, right?
mhm.
Excuse me. Um, so, but for the cultural preservation and because it feel good, then that's when I make sure that I'm practicing some indigenous, a little bit more in depth practices because it's just connecting me with culture and society by doing that. So,
Okay. Guys, hit the like button again. Please hit that like button. I'll put the link in the chat room here shortly. You guys will call in and ask a question. Guys, be nice. Okay. Be nice. This ain't the debate show that we usually have. So you guys
oh,
be,
is that what you usually have?
yeah. So you guys be nice, okay? Let's be nice
I
to our
mean, it's a
special guest.
touchy subject.
Yeah, but so we were having this conversation on Sunday. Well, actually it was Saturday. Our Baba was saying, just be nice. Like that's like the first
Mm,
step. Just be a nice person.
mm,
Be a good person because no matter how much you get into the ceremonies and the rituals, if you're
yeah,
an evil-hearted person, that stuff don't work.
it doesn't matter. Right,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, and I find that's why it has been, in my experience, difficult to find community to be a part of rather than you building the community. Um, because a lot of times people will appropriate a certain language, look, talk, or style. You know, you can study the science,
Uh-huh.
but the compassion is something that you can't fake, you know. And in order to reach Ma'at, it is both compassion, you know, it's not just consciousness, it's also compassion. The feather is enlightenment. It's not just justice, right? Pre the justice, it was about consciousness. Feather is always symbolic of the spiritual realm, the celestial realm. The heart is your compassion. So if you're that vessel doesn't open up on both unless both are aligned, you know.
Right.
And to me, that's the ma'at.
Guys, I'm gonna put the link in the chat room if you guys want to call in and add to a conversation, add to the conversation. You guys are more than welcome to call in and ask a question. Again, guys, be nice, okay? Be
Be
nice. But
nice.
links to the chat room, and you're more than welcome to add to the convo. Now in LA, like I'm noticing, here we go. Outside of so I go to the Voodoo Festival. I go to
I would love to
Oshun.
go to the Voodoo Festival.
Yeah, Benin every January, the first they changed it now. It's like the second Friday in January now.
Okay.
But it's just the only issue is the actual festival itself, since it's been taken over by the government, it's
Mm,
completely commercialized now. So it's
mm.
they didn't went commercial. But everybody has their own temples and everything. So that's where the fun stuff goes on.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Um, but are you kind of noticing this shift where like non-black people are more gravitating to African spirituality than
Than
black folk?
us.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's all written in the stars too. You know,
Mhm.
we are entering into this age that has been sort of popularized by the age of Aquarius, and but if you understand exactly how many years those ages are, we are barely at the tip of it. But everything is a ripple effect. So I'm grateful to be here in this spark and this shift.
Mhm.
Um, as we're coming into this age of awareness, awakening, remembering, I mean, it also can be calculated. And so the forces that are wanting that not to happen are also, excuse me, very busy as well, right? So we're in an age of information, but also illusion, right? Awakening and illusion. So I think that programs have just amplified a bit more, creating more division. One thing I saw is within the community, the masculine and the feminine conversations and battles on peaks. And nowadays
Yeah.
anybody can have a voice on the platform, which is dangerous. A lot of
Yeah.
people claiming, this disconnect of Africa. And, yes, we are indigenous to every land.
Yeah.
However, to deny your African roots is something that doesn't align with me. And that has created a lot of division as well within our spiritual community.
Mhm.
And so it's like,
Hold on,
sometimes I'm trying.
sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off. Just
No, it's
so,
okay. No worries.
so are you saying there are people who are practicing like African spirituality, but saying it's not African, it's indigenous?
I mean, I feel that everything roots back to the mother continent.
Uh-huh.
But there's like conversations that are distractions, right?
Right, right.
Before we can even get to the alignment on spirituality, we have this division in community, right? And
Mhm,
so
mhm.
I'm noticing an influx of that, a saturation of that. And we know historically, anytime we have a movement and momentum of healing and prosperity and power, there's infiltration and there's things
Infiltrated.
to
Mhm,
dismantle us, right? Um, as far as I think our community and giving compassion to our community, we are triggered by a lot of traumas. And so we have
mhm.
this PTSD and we're afraid of that breaking free. Sometimes it can be a bit of a possibly, uh, let me not say that.
Hey, no, say it.
the,
No,
the
no,
fear
no.
of breaking free, because I would never discourage someone from whatever their faith belief is. I'm never one to say
Mhm,
don't be something. So I want to be mindful of my words and respectful of my words. But there's a lot of fear that has been indoctrinated and ingrained and programmed into us, and so we feel safer collectively. And
mhm,
it is scary. I mean, it still is a bit intimidating for me and my walk. And I'm
mhm.
mindful of where I go, will I be received? My last time I went to Ethiopia, just January, I was mindful of that. How will I be received being so open, as a czar healer, something that's extremely taboo in
How were you
Ethiopia?
received? How were you received?
Surprisingly well,
Okay.
but so is the duality of life, right? I'm going to be received, and that's one thing I realized. I will be well received, but I also might not be well received. So circling back to
Mhm,
your question, I think that our community is we're growing in both directions. We're growing in directions connecting back to African spirituality,
mhm.
and we're growing in another direction that's like, well, that community kind of looks a little unstable sometimes, which it can. Sometimes African spiritual community can look
Oh,
really
oh, oh,
chaotic,
yeah. Oh, oh,
and
yeah.
I'm being
Yeah.
generous sometimes. But
Right.
and so what doesn't seem like a safe space to be in, or
Mhm,
if people aren't appearing in leadership, or people who are putting themselves in positions as spiritual leaders or assistant, and they're not healthy or they've abused people, then they kind of just run right back to where they feel safe, right? And so it's both. It's a bit of a stagnation, it's a bit of fear, it's a bit of that doesn't look too stable, and we need to get our responsibility up as a spiritual
mhm.
community too.
Right.
There's a lot of layers to it.
Let me read
I
this.
can't read that, so I hope you can read them.
No,
This
no,
is
no.
the second time
I'm
this.
gonna read it, but Maria has a
Okay.
great point. So, like I said, sometimes the arguments get very emotional and intense. So she
Mm,
posted in the chat when talking about African spirituality, the chat is basically empty. When we talk about crap and there are a bunch of arguing, the chat is full. Some
mm,
people are full of crap. She has a
mm-hmm.
point.
True.
So yeah, so when
True.
we spoke on the phone, I was speaking on like I need more balance and
Hmm.
you know different types of conversations,
Thank you.
and
Appreciate that.
also I need to involve more women on this platform as well because sometimes when the men get on here, and I sometimes get annoyed and got to mute people and kick people out the chat. But like the men be arguing and yelling and screaming more than the women do.
I mean, I
You
think
know,
it's good to cultivate, yeah, it's good to cultivate environments where we can have dialogue amongst each other.
right, right.
I understand that women, we need our space, men need their space, but
We need each other. We
I
need each
try to
other.
cultivate
Mhm,
environments where we're together because we've
mhm,
had enough isolation and separation. Like we need to learn what it feels like to be together and actually talk to each other, you know. And then we end up finding that we're all traumatized from the same things, but maybe in different costumes, right? But the same entity that we're battling. So um yeah, those conversations aren't really, they're difficult to have, you know. Men trigger women and women trigger men, so, and
mhm,
because we don't
mhm.
see each other, we don't see that really we both are, all are traumatized from the same thing, which is most likely is some sort of form of childhood abuse or economic abuse or some sort of social injustice, that we
Yeah,
all have these experiences. So um yeah, it's not easy to get us in the room together, but it's necessary, even if
it's
there's a little,
necessary.
even if it's a little heat. I think some of us
Yeah,
can have a little bit thicker skin, you know.
right,
But
right,
as
right.
long as it's not like toxic rhetoric, you know, as long as the intention is to get to a certain point, you know, not to separate us.
Right.
But yeah, I don't get invited into those rooms. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. What so I'm noticing this new age, you see a lot of women call themselves witches.
yeah.
Like it's growing in popularity. I'm a witch.
Hmm. How do you
Where's
feel
that
about
like
that
yeah, yeah,
language?
yeah, 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 yeah. Where's that coming from? Like why
I
when did it
think
become
it's
cool to be called a witch?
I think it's a bit of a rebellion, right? A rebellion and putting in your face, hey, stigmatize these words, right? So
Mhm.
sort of like how we in our Black community feel about, you know, a certain word that only we can
Oh
say that others
yeah,
can't
yeah.
say, right? If
Nah,
some
hold on, let me
people,
interject. In LA, the Hispanics and Asians say more than us, and it's
yeah, and that's not
annoying, but we
okay.
let it
That
slide. Yeah, I don't like it, but
is
go
not
ahead.
right. But so we know, like, because it's rooted in a derogatory manner, but we felt like reclaiming it, right, is sort of a rebellious way of transmuting, I guess, what that intention is. I feel the same as with witch. It's like, okay, we know that one, women being priestess and utilizing herbs and medicinal and being able to manipulate energy and travel into spirit world is been stigmatized. So I think people use it for a bit of a rebellion, which I think is, I like it.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
know, it definitely but I don't utilize it because it's counterproductive. I don't want people to
mhm,
run away from me, and I don't want people to build walls, but I understand why some women use it. Yeah.
mhm. Guys, links in the chat room. Link is in the chat room because it's just I know in African spirituality, um, a witch can be taboo,
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
taboo.
Hmm.
So that's why I kind of don't, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That's what the rebellion is. Like, well, why is it taboo? Right. So, for
Mhm,
example, they have that same, okay, let's say in Ethiopia, right? For me
mhm.
to be a Zar healer, every time I say that word, you know, people in the Ethiopian community freak out. Like, oh, you know, oh my God,
So Zar is that like traditional Ethiopian?
it's one of them.
Okay, okay.
Zar healing is actually where the dance and the drum of trance originated. You see that circle drum?
Mhm.
Um, I'm not sure if you can see it behind me on the wall there,
Yeah,
but
I
these
see. I see
circle
your altar
drums
room.
that you use to beat, and you dance into like this erotic state, and you go into a trance and you communicate with spirits. Someone comes to you if they have a spiritual attachment or illness and they feel that it's an entity, and you basically um, uh, communicate with that spirit to find out why it's wreaking havoc on that person. So in Ethiopia, this very same form of healing is done through the church, but it's called an exorcism rather than an appeasement, and where they're extracting the spirit out of you, and it's ordained for men to do it only,
Mhm,
where they can be pretty aggressive in their ways of beating the demon out of you. So you have one that actually involves some physical force, and you have the other one that's just dancing and trance, but one is demonized because it was women facilitated. Um, but that's a whole other conversation of religion and patriarchy and all of that too.
All right, let me read this super chat. M Lola 3424. Thank you for $3 holla. Diners, can I call in to plug my new book on IFA? Do me a favor. Put the link or the name of your book on IFA in the chat room and let me look at it first. Bukina Bay, go ahead and meet yourself.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Please.
Hey, sis, how are you doing? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you. I'm well. Give thanks. How are you, brother?
Good, good. Thank you. So I was coming here because, like, since you guys are talking about spirituality, I wanted to present evidences and I wanted to have your opinion on those evidences, okay? So those are evidences that forced me to go back into the Israelite identity, all right? Because those are evidences that takes us back to Hebrewness, all right? Because like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Hebrew Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll start with my first evidence that I have to present you, okay? Because you guys are talking about like our ancestors and like the spirituality that our ancestors started with and like the originality of it and all of that. So my first discovery is a tribe from the Ivory Coast. In Ivory Coast, there's a tribe that has two names to identify themselves. Up to this day, they identified themselves the same way for the longest, for thousands of years, okay? Their name is Yakuba, all right? The first way that they identified themselves is Yakuba, all right? Now, the second way that they identified themselves is Dan, all right? Now, if you look at Yakuba, Yakuba is what we know to be Jacob, all right? Jacob is also the same person that we call Israel, all right? But then the second way that the same...
If I can interject real quick, I know people from the Dan tribe, their origin story has nothing to do with Israel. But
Okay,
go ahead. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish.
Okay, but coincidentally, they practice all the Hebrew traditions, like the circumcisions and all of that, all right? So now that's my first evidence that I had to present, right? The second evidence that I had to present is from my father's tribe, okay? I'm from Burkina Faso, and my father is Dagari. So the Dagari people believe in, like, let's say, if somebody has a wife, right? And let's say he dies, then in their tradition, they believe in passing on that wife to the youngest brother, all right? For that younger brother to give him like children. And then if that younger brother dies, then he needs to pass on the same women to the next brother. And this is a prescription that we can only find in the Bible from Moses. Moses is the one who prescribed this.
That's not true. Other tribes practice that as well.
Of course.
Brandon, not today, Brandon, not today. Hold on, Brandon, it's your turn, not today. But it's just, me personally, I don't know. I don't understand this obsession with wanting to attach ourselves to Israel so bad. I don't get it. You know, as I travel, we have our own customs, we have our own origin stories, we have our own systems. I just don't understand. And then when I'm sitting down with these elders or wherever I go, they have their own origin stories, but I just don't understand this want to attach ourselves to Israel. I just don't get it. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what you want, but it's like we want to rewrite history, revise history to like fit this. We are the Israeli narrative. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
So then, since you said that you were familiar with the Dan people from the Ivory Coast, right? Is it a coincidence? Okay, so is it a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that not just they identified themselves as Jacob, but then also the second name to identify themselves is one of the 12 sons of Jacob, who is Dan, and they are older than the white Hebrews. They're older people, as you know it. So is that a coincidence? Did they make this up?
Okay, so Burkina Bear, I'll use Igbos as an example. So in the 60s, If you want to chime in, Miss Kushite Mystic, you can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
After during the Biafran War, because the Igbos felt like they were being ostracized or marginalized, they started to identify a few, within the Igbo ethnic group, started to identify as Jews as well. But Igbos at a large part of society, they don't identify as that. They look at the few that identify themselves as Hebrews, they look at them like they're crazy. So just because there are a couple within an ethnic group that claim to be Hebrews or Jews does not reflect the larger community.
Okay. So this all you have to tell me on this topic?
But then,
Was
then it,
was there a question on the topic? I was confused. What was the question?
Okay, my question was to know your both of you, right? I wanted your both opinions on like the true identity, the true spirituality that our ancestors started with. You get what I'm saying? Because this is my piece of evidence that I'm trying to present to you, and I'm
Mm,
trying to see your opinion on those evidences that are presented on those two different tribes. My father's tribe, who
mm,
have evidence pointing to Israel,
mm.
and then the Dan tribe from Ivory Coast, who also showing so many evidences pointing back to Israel.
So, if I may, I
mm,
think this is one of the layers of what I was saying about our community having difficulties reaching just enlightenment, right? Because we all want to get to ownership of first. But I feel one, African people were, yes, we were in that land of Palestine. We were in all of these areas and what is today called Israel. We are original people everywhere, and we migrated many times back and forth. So we might have rooted from the continent, expanded ourselves into the Middle East, into Asia, coming back and forth. Like there doesn't there we have to expand our minds and say accepting that we might have different starting points. We might have different references, different communities, right? But what do we all have in common in the end of the day? Like what is it that we're trying to accomplish in okay, we were the first, they were the first. What do we all have in common? So I try to find solution oriented spirituality or a spiritual point to focus on. For me, my focus is not on finding out who is the first of anything. That could be my own personal journey. But when it comes to enlightenment and the cosmos and consciousness, that's what I'm mostly concerned about. And that you can find us expressing through many different languages, many different practices. But yes, all of any faith has rooted on the continent. All of Abrahamic faiths rooted on the continent. Moses, I'm sure, who married an Ethiopian, also came and learned our indigenous practice, indigenous ways. But you have different families, different clans, different nomadic groups, right? To assume that the Beja and the Afar spoke so many language. We were river traveling people. We had a whole water system that existed back then that connected all of us. There was so much more land technology available for us to communicate that I think that we just don't have all the total information, whether it's with the land or whether it's the language or telepathic knowing right now to be able to discern exactly that. So I like to lean more so when these questions arise, like let that be your own personal journey. But in the end of the day, what does that have to do with enlightenment?
Oh,
go ahead, because
you're
then I'm gonna pass
curious
the
to
mic.
know. Okay, you're curious to know what like the Hebrewness have to do with enlightenment.
Or just you wanting to confirm if we agree that there
Yeah,
was the evidence. Yes. Mm.
right. So yeah, I mean, because like I've been researching a lot on this topic, and I
Mm-hmm.
keep just finding more and more evidences about us linking back to Israel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if that's something that has led and sparked your journey, then hopefully that's brought you to a sense of personal awareness. And hopefully that's brought you on a journey of more collective healing and wanting to be a part of African unity around the world. You know, we are everywhere. We are the source of every spiritual spark, African people. So I don't doubt that.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. So this all I had.
Hold up, I got. Let me pass the mic. We have other people. Boom, Car. Go ahead and mute yourself. After that is Brandon.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Excellent. Ade, good afternoon. How are you, sister?
Give thanks. I'm well. How are you?
Very well, thank you. My question is actually sort of related to your previous answer, Abe. My question comes in threefold, if that makes sense. First one would be, is African spirituality a unanimous phenomena across Africa? And then number two would be, Abe, do you believe that there's logic in African spirituality?
Good questions.
Do you believe that 1 + 2 is equals 3 in African spirituality?
Okay. So the first question
Yeah.
is, can you repeat the first one just so I can make sure I have it?
Is African spirituality unanimous across Africa? Is it a
I think.
unanimous practice across Africa? Because, like you were
Mhm,
saying earlier,
mhm,
Africa is blessed with so many distinct groups.
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm,
the tradition I practice as an Igbo man in Anambra State is
mhm,
totally different from the spirituality that you probably practice in Ethiopia. So I'm trying
mhm,
to
mhm,
understand if there's some sort of a unanimous
mhm,
umbilical connection between
mhm.
African spirituality across Africa.
Yeah, I love that question. I feel that there is, like, foundationally, it
Mm,
what I have found, and it's still much to explore because, like you said, there's so many different nations and clans and languages and customs.
mm,
But I've found that the foundational expression is balance and harmony with the land,
I see.
and the as above, so below, and also our connection to the cosmos, right?
Mm,
Whether that's reading the stars for navigation of crops and food, which is for basic survival, or whether that's also understanding the star knowledge and how to interpret our emotions and our expressions and our principles here. So
mm,
I think foundationally, what I have found so far is that they root in that, right?
I see.
The yes. How about for you? I would like to know as well.
No,
How do
that
you?
totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Mhm.
Because Africa continues to be um, a very distinct community with different groups,
Yes.
and until we get to that confluence where we can celebrate our different African spiritualities,
Yes.
then we're
Yes.
still going to travel that journey for a long time. The
I
second question,
agree.
the second
Mhm.
question I have really quick is, I asked you if you think there's logic in African history. That is, if 1 + 2 is equals 3. If you think
Mm.
there is logic in African history, do you think that there's a difference between African spirituality, and Western science?
Mm. I think there's both logic and reasoning.
Mm,
There's both spirit and science,
mm,
and uh, the the magic or the balance is in the center, the axis, right? So
I
so
see.
many symbols we utilize to express this. Even the cross that we used before it was associated with crucifixion.
Mm,
It was not just north, south, east, west, not just celestial seasons of the Dipper, but it was also an expression of that balance, the mind and the body,
mm,
the land and the sky, the logic, the left brain and the right brain, right?
mm.
It has to be, we have to start, I would like for us to start seeing um spirituality in as a whole, which in a whole hemisphere, left and right, you
I
know.
see.
Mhm. So I tend to be a very logical person.
Mm,
Um which has been very difficult to live,
yeah.
especially in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, I'm someone who can see on the other side, communicate with the spiritual world, right? So there,
Mm,
how do you logically explain that? But I also find and respect the balance of logic and also apply the knowledge of the unknown, the unfathomable, the infinite probabilities
yeah.
as well,
Excellent. Thank you.
and being okay with the in between. Thank you. Yeah.
And lastly, Ade, lastly
Yes.
would be, where do you see African spirituality surviving in this global community, because the whole world is becoming one global neighborhood. And
Yes.
there's a conflict between philosophies around the world.
Right.
Where do you see African spirituality remaining distinct in that conflict? Thank you.
I see two probabilities. I see two sides of a coin, and I'm hoping to do my part to feed one side. There could be an awareness and awakening of eumelanated, and I like to specify eumelanin, which is brown to black pigment. If there is an awakening of eumelanated beings
Mm,
around the world to one, first, just collectively unify on that.
mm,
Um, and again, understanding that we are all in pursuit of the same thing, which is just peace and harmony within, and to be surrounded by that as well.
mm,
But there also is the reality of AI and misinformation and social media and so many other factors, media alone, period. We don't ever really know the truth, right? And truth is
mm.
also objective or selective in so many things, right? The truth can be
Yeah.
so many things. So there's people who've really convinced themselves in Europe that they are Egyptians, and there are people
Mm,
who have really convinced themselves that um, the Negroid race, as they would call us,
mm,
are inferior. So and then there's those of us who say no, we are the pyramid and mound builders, right? So
mm.
whose truth? And then there's people who can find research, there's people who can find images, right, to express and really back up what they believe is true to themselves.
I see.
So there is this battle, honestly, I feel that is brewing. I feel that we are in a bit of a chaotic phase, honestly, as it's growing.
Mm.
And this chaos can either explode or this chaos can implode. I'm hoping that we implode into each other. But there definitely is going to be some sort of shift. I mean, that's just how nature
Nature. Yep.
responds,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping that we can implode in the momentum, and this is a bit of science as well too, right? That we can alchemize and create something
Yeah.
that seeds something new, possibly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time for new technology, maybe it's time for a new information. We are generators, we are creators, so maybe
Mm.
it's time for something new.
All right,
Excellent.
let me pass
Thank
the
you very
mic
much.
there. Yeah, no
Thank
Thanks,
you for
Nick.
problem.
your
Thank you.
questions.
Cheers.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
for your questions.
No,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Eddie. Bye-bye.
All right, go ahead, Brandon.
Hey, Dinus, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so I have two things. One, the Hebrew Israelite guy, you know, the thing we all have to understand about that is there's no real evidence for that. The evidence is it's an identity issue, right? A lot of people are walking around thinking that they men when they really women. A lot of people think they women when they really men. Our generation, our country, and in our world, it has a serious issue with identity disorder, right? Um, the man says, "Oh, my father's tribe, this, that, and the third goes back to Israel." If you read the Bible, which 90% of these people haven't, and if they have, there's no understanding. If you go to the book of Deuteronomy, you go through 19th chapter to the 24th chapter. The Israelites were not Israelites until they entered into a covenant with Yahweh when Moses was standing on top of Mount Sinai, and he made the covenant with them on the behalf of Yahweh and poured all the bull's blood on top of them, gave them the commandments and stuff, and they were like, whatever's said, we'll do, right? So my question is, how are you an Israelite when your family never entered into that covenant? You never stood at the base of no mountain and got covered with bull's blood to enter into a covenant. That was only the people who left out of Egypt. Here's the bigger thing. It was not just one group or type of people who left Egypt with Moses. Many Egyptians left Egypt with Moses, right? There were people who were Hebrews, but then there were people who were other races too. That's why the Bible describes them as a mixed multitude. There was not one distinct group of people who was Israelite. It was many different types of people, right? But most of what is found in the Bible as the customs of the Jews or the Israelites, those are things that they learned in Egypt in captivity, right? If you go live amongst a group of people for 400 years, you're going to lose most of what you were doing before you came in, and you're going to adopt most of what they're doing before you leave. That's like black folks being in America, right? We once we stayed in America so long, we weren't walking around with loincloths anymore. We start putting on pants and boots and shirts and suspenders and belts, right? You can't live amongst a group of people and perfectly preserve whatever you were doing before you went in. And that's why even with Yahweh, he had to reintroduce himself to the Hebrews who were coming out of Egypt and then enter into a covenant with them. But once he entered into that covenant, there were millions and millions of people on the planet, and everybody on the planet did not enter into that covenant. So this idea that, oh yeah, we're the people from Israel, it's just nonsensical. Egypt didn't fall apart when the Israelites left. It still endured for 1,000 years, right? More than 1,000 years. So what he's talking about with black people being Israelites, is it possible that some black people were there when they entered into the covenant at the base of Mount Sinai, also known as Mount Horeb? That's possible, but that is not the origin of black people. That's nowhere near the origin of black people. None of that has nothing to do with our origin. That could be something that a few black people decided to join or become a part of later on. All the stuff about them going into Africa, that's all lies. Egypt is in Africa. So how you go into Africa when you was already in Africa? And those places are still there with black folks living in those places. So there, no, that's just that's just nonsense. Because when you prove the physical is nonsensical, then we go over to the spiritual side. And if you're talking about spiritual, then that makes you a Christian, not a Jew. So make your mind up. But anyway, because once the
hold on, yeah, we're not yet, not now. But go ahead, Brandon.
The spiritual aspect came in during the New Testament. That's why you're not sacrificing goats and stuff now, because everything transferred over to the spiritual once Jesus came. So don't tell me, oh, I'm a spiritual Jew or I'm a spiritual this or that. Yes, they're spiritual Israel, but spiritual Israel are Christians. They're not Jews, right? They don't practice Judaism. So yeah, that might work on somebody who doesn't read. But then the next thing is LA spirituality, Black African spirituality. When Africans made African spirituality, the usefulness of it was for survival, right? A lot of what they did was based on the natural things that occurred around them, wandering around in Africa, right? You might worship a tree. Yeah, but you might also get fruit from that tree, right? You might worship some type of animal. Yeah, but you might also eat that animal for survival, right? You know, like the Lion King, circle of life. We respect everything because everything's essential to the survival of everything, right? As we become more dependent on the white man or just secular things, right? Like in LA, people are on welfare, food stamps and stuff. That detaches you from the things that basically required African spirituality for you to survive. So when you look at spirituality in LA, it's just a bunch of reasoning that's kind of circular. If someone gets hurt, the explanations for things, right? It's like it's a cope of, well, whatever energy that person was exhibiting, that's what brought that calamity upon them. Even if like a kid gets hurt or something, or an adult who was innocent, it's, oh, well, there was something about something that person was doing that brought that energy in their direction. I don't really think it's spirituality. I think it's a coping mechanism that is masked with spirituality.
Brandon, I'm gonna let. Are you finished? I'm gonna let.
That's what I was saying. I think what's being called African spirituality in LA is a coping mechanism that is being that is moonlighting as African spirituality, and that's all I'm saying.
All right, go ahead, Kushite, out there, you could respond.
Oh, no, I just like to listen to people. Yeah, there's nothing for me to respond there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Kidola.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. I was enjoying listening to the beautiful sister. Who's sorry, are you a prophetess, please, if I may ask?
I'm sorry.
Are you a prophetess? Your
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Yes.
I really enjoy.
Labels are very difficult, so it depends on what your relationship is to the word.
I
Um,
got you.
mhm. So I tend to go by healer or and mystic, because mystic is really the search for something, right? The understanding. The healing is the actual tangible work.
Yeah, I really enjoy your. I enjoy listening to you.
Thank you.
It was nice. It's not just easy. People see it that way they want to see it.
Mhm.
And you be called for it. It's not just you just wake up to be what you are now. I respect you
Yeah,
for that and everything. I want to ask one question, please.
sure.
How do your partner see? I don't
Hmm.
know if you're married and everything. Can you, with your with this big religion you were into, or you are not into, you are as a prophetess? Are you people marrying or something like that? If I may ask, please.
I think everyone's journey is uniquely their own. In my experience, it's been difficult, yes, because not just being a prophetess, but being a clairvoyant, also being able to hear minds and being able to hear someone's subconscious and know their deepest secrets without them um, having confronted them themselves can be very triggering for people. So sometimes my presence is very triggering. But I've learned to not personalize that, and I've foundation. I'm a product of love. My parents just celebrated 52 years of a healthy, real marriage, not just because it's cheaper to keep her, but because they actually are soul love. I'm a product and surrounded by soul love, but I was married and divorced 3 times. I could be extremely difficult in partnership for me with men. Um, in friendship is also difficult because you can see through people's true intentions, and that could be extremely difficult as well. But I say, I'm not here to also hoard my gifts. It took for me to understand that I am a spark and a vessel to be utilized, excuse me, to be utilized. And so I had to actually just build more in myself and my skills to understand discernment more, and to also give compassion to those who weren't really ever whole soul enough to be able to handle a magnitude to be with someone like myself. So it takes responsibility from my end to step into who I was fully, to understand the magnitude of my presence, and then what it would take to be able to um, be in a relationship or marriage with someone who has very strict moral values too. So it's been
Okay.
difficult.
Yeah, I do. Respect. I do really
Yes.
enjoy listening to you, and
Thank you.
was nice to see an African person practicing the religion that they belong to.
Thank you.
And people talk about whatever it is, Jews, whatever they want to talk about. I don't think Africans actually know much about the Bible. The white man came with it, and behind that scene was the other one that escorted them to the place and present us the Bible. The Igbos were never Jewish people. I live close to them. There are people who worship trees, the nature, and everything. All those that claim to be Jews is just fantasy. Think they should go back to
Yeah.
where they're coming from. So thank you very much. I really do enjoy
Thank you.
your program a lot. Thank you, please.
Thank you.
God
Thank
bless.
you. Yeah,
Respect.
to expand on that, I mean, being of Ethiopian descent, Ethiopia is a very spiritual hub, right? The center of many spiritual faiths that come, whether it's a crossroad or was birthed in those areas. One being obviously one of the oldest Christian nations, Orthodox Christian nations in the world. And so even with that, I'm migrating through a culture that can be very is what I practice is also very marginalized as well there. So I'm preserving and reclaiming something that is a practice that went underground. I won't say it doesn't exist anymore, but it's more underground. I see understanding. I study some religions only to see where the root of the traditional wisdom that we had was absorbed and changed, or cosplays or appropriated into other religions. But yeah, I think if we can just get back to like the core values, instead of worrying about whose religion and whose spiritual practice is better, that too within the spiritual community causes a lot of division. Um, Consciousness, I think the heart is another conversation that we need to have in the African community about what does, I don't know, compassion, and what does community and acceptance of our uniqueness on the continent, so many different languages, so many different looks, and not to say that there's a contrast of the one or the other. There's this misconception that East and West Africans don't look anything alike, and that's actually absolutely false. That we have all different expressions and beauty in each directions in each place. And to go back to the brother who was talking about the Israel people. I mean, in Ethiopia, we have Beta Israel, right?
Mhm.
And Ethiopians will call, usually you hear the word falasha, which is actually
Like,
means like foreigner. So it's not really a positive word. But even that word implies that they came from somewhere else, right? So they brought Judaism, and they are Ethiopian Jews. And they did go back to, a lot of them do go back to Israel to live, even though they were sterilized and treated very poorly. But there is a connection of
which is
people.
crazy. Yeah, this there.
Yeah.
Yeah, accidentally.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, again, I think it comes back to the logic and the science, right? Above this as well. Like, and this is where we don't have enough, because Africans, we are science. We are the ones to develop and discover the binary. We are the ones to discover alchemy, right? And so when it comes down to, I mean, even the DNA, we know that with the Dogon, they understood whether it's in storytelling or not. We just understood the body and science, and how the spirit also intertwined before. So if we can understand what the actual properties are of eumelanin and what it does as a light conductor, if we all can recenter back there, which is recentering in light and us being bodies of light, you will naturally find your way back home and find that, oh, we are all rooted from the same aha moment of light in our bodies.
All right, let me pass the mic. BD, unmute yourself, BD. Well, let me read these super chats too. JC Inc., thank you for $1.99 holla. Brandon, talk your facts. JC Inc., thank you for $4.99 holla. A major example of bad energy is when Africans were selling other Africans during the Atlantic slave trade. BD, go ahead, BD, unmute yourself.
What's up, friends? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Greetings to everybody on the chat and the call and all that, and
Greetings.
greeting to the guests. Yeah, Prince. I was the one that sent you that what's it called? Super chat to ask if I could promote the book. Remember the last time I was on your show and I asked if you could.
Well, not right now, because we have a special guest and we want to promote her books and what she has, BD. But
Okay. That's good.
BD, send me an email and we could work something out.
Okay.
Okay. But if you have a question, you're more than welcome to ask it.
Okay. The question I will ask her then will be she's from Ethiopia, correct?
My father's from Ethiopia. Yes.
Oh, okay. Can you speak about the Kalus that's in the Oromo tribe in Ethiopia? I think there's like a special type of diviner. Have you heard of them? The Kalu diviners from the Oromo tribe in Ethiopia.
Yeah, there's many different types of divination in Ethiopia. The Wakafina is one system. and the walk system, matriarchal spiritual systems as well. So there's actually a lot. There's some that are divinate and I won't use the word worship, but venerate forest spirits. So there's lots of different, even within the Oromo, there's lots of different sectors.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Dinas, I sent you the link. You told me to post the link in the chat, so I sent it. But can you send me your email so I can send it directly to you also, and we'll talk later?
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Email. I'll put my email in the chat. Babaliko, go ahead. And
Thank
then Ade, how are you looking on time?
I am actually okay. The next 30 minutes, I have a call.
Oh,
with Ethiopia.
perfect.
Yeah.
Actually, that's perfect.
Yeah, and that's only because of time difference. I gotta organize this experience in Ethiopia. I'm planning.
Absolutely. Babaliko, go ahead.
Hey, sister. I want to ask Ethiopian in the Caribbean. We speak. I grew up in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church where we speak Amharic. We learned the prayers. Amharic. Our Father prayer. We learned to say Abatachinoi Besama Yemetno. So we learned these Ethiopian things in the Caribbean. So I understand exactly what you're saying. My grandfather took me there. My thing is with this being more spiritual and stuff like that, because I grew up in the Ethiopian church and I grew up in my mother was Christian, my father's Ethiopian, and this was all over. And then I got, as Brandon was talking earlier on about the Hebrews and stuff, which I've been reading the book From Hebrews to Negroes by Ronald Danton Jr. And it's everything kind of all over the place. We kind of have like Black people kind of like all over the place in Christianity, Hebrew, we've been Ethiopian church, Orthodox church, and everything like that. Do you think like we lost a lot of our people lost our way in what we truly is, because everything kind of connect us in a sense. Like when they read the Bible of Deuteronomy 20, the 20th chapter, it did say you're going to Egypt again with ships. That's what I was trying to tell Brandon earlier on. It don't mean you're going back into Egypt again. It means you're going to a spiritual Egypt with ships, which a lot of people say is America, because the slavery will end up in America again with ships. That's where it was referring to, according to the 20th chapter in Deuteronomy. So, because that's all I do every day. Read books. I got the Black Image and a White Man by George Fredrickson and all that. So my thing is, with all these things, all these books and all this religion and everything, where you think that the spiritual connect us with everything that all our people are in, because we in so much different religion and so much different things. Where you think the spiritual could connect us all and bring us together? Because a lot of divide in our communities, like religion and tribal. So where you think the connection could be being spiritual? Because I believe we don't go back to our ancestors and stuff and talk to our ancestors and stuff. Which I think that is very important in this day to society. So what do you think about spirituality and all these different religions that we have and stuff that, a lot of our people in so much different things.
Yeah, I think thank you for your engagement. I think we spoke, we mentioned a little bit about that earlier, that I was kind of highlighting exactly that, is that there's so much division, whether it's a positive division, right? Like, it doesn't always have to be such a negative thing, but the reality is if this group of us are here and that group of us are here and this group of us are here, if we're not somehow connecting with each other and communicating with each other, then there is a division, right? Divide and conquer. The expression we will return back to Egypt, or Egypt return, there's also that prophecy of the Queen of the South will return. This is where, again, knowledge, I think in education, a very specific knowledge of studying the stars again is something that we need to get back to, which was taken away from us. And whether you want to call that science or whether you want to call that metaphysical or spiritual, I think just the knowledge of the stars, we cannot navigate without it. It is one of our oldest form of communications with the divine. um and you think you would understand that it's not just a prophecy, it's not just a feeling. Then you can actually literally calculate it in the stars that we are coming into a time where again it is pointing towards the Ethiopians, which means the you melanated African people around the world. And so I look at it not necessarily as a location that, oh, Africans are going, the new Egypt or new Kemet is going to be in America. Instead of looking for a location, it's really about a mindset, that the mindset of Kemet, which was spiritual enlightenment, a hub for a spiritual center, much like Ethiopia in her antiquity was as well. It's a time where Ethiopians, African people around the world are going to, within and in your awareness, be awakened again. So I feel like that's how I resonate with that prophecy or that discussion. Yes, we are very divided by many different distractions. If we can get back to the core and to the root, even if we can focus on eumelanin, what is eumelanin and what is its function, right? What does the eumelanin specifically do as a conductor of light? Where has this, why is this light important? We are electricity. Okay, what does this electricity, what do we need it for? What does it control? Is it controlling our hormones? Is it controlling our emotions? I think getting back to seeing our bodies as living, living within nature, living within this earth, not constantly looking for the next place we're going to. If we can get back to grounding ourselves here and how to once again flow and balance in this world, I think that that is a much more center core value that we can all agree on, rather than worrying about whose profit is right and whose system is right. If we can get down to the core of, hey, as a you melanated person, what are we going to, what do you have within your body that is unique and is special? And how can this body, to its maximum capacity, mind, body, and spirit, what can I do to make this vessel, this host that I'm in, work at its full capacity? So it is a bit of logic, and the spirit, I feel, that is more of a reasoning of also, um, not a surrenderance, but an understanding and acceptance of how infinite and how expansive this world is, and our world is, and the universe and the cosmos or the divine, whichever language you want to use, and to not feel that we have to figure everything out, right? To be in flow with things as they come. So recentering our focus here right now with us, as you melanated beings, what it makes you melanin special, and then how can we get you melanated beings all around the world collectively at one time to lift and to shine our light within our bodies as bright as we can. I feel that's my personal mission and that I like to share. So I would like to answer that question by what I feel personally is a way to focus in our core, our inner sun.
All right, Baba Lico fell off. So we have two more callers. After these two callers, we'll start closing out. Go ahead,
Okay.
Econ. Go ahead, Econ, and mute yourself. Econ, unmute yourself. Econ. All right. Going once, going twice. All right. Pharaoh, go ahead, Pharaoh, unmute yourself.
Yeah, peace, Dinus. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, yes, peace. Hello, peace to the Queen,
Peace.
Kushite Mystic.
Peace. Peace.
Yeah, yeah, I wanted to ask you, as someone who represents the Kemetic culture, because I've been out to LA. I just came back from LA. Yeah, and I see, like, I really like a lot of black people have some type of deep hate for Egypt and Kemet, due to Christianity and the Abrahamic faith
Mm-hmm.
and Islam as well, because these religions, teach us the hate Kemet, hate Egypt, because of the Exodus and Pharaoh story. But the question I have is, you being an Ethiopian, and we all know that Ethiopians are Orthodox Christians, are Christians, like, and you being an Ethiopian representing the ancient Egyptian Kemetic culture, do you get a lot of like negative backlash from other Ethiopians?
No, actually, because I think there's a lot more um just visibility in Ethiopia of the different nations of people. I try to walk away from that word tribe,
Mhm.
but Ethiopia, a lot of Ethiopia history is oral, and we really hold very dear and true to oral history, and we give it just as much as respect as written history. And so it's um it's not too difficult to find an elder who knows that the Beja and Afar people are the same nomadic people in Sudan, in Kemet, or today's Egypt. Um, so I think there's a little bit more cultural awareness there, but there's layers to that too. Depends on who you're talking to, whether these are Ethiopians in the city, whether these are Ethiopians who are deep into the church and don't know other histories of other nation groups. I think I've had the freedom to explore by being born here, by having a language barrier and being half. It gave me that boldness and that fearlessness to not limit myself to just one ethnic identity of Ethiopia. So my father is a mixed ethnic group. He's Amhara and Tigray, but I grew up with low. I didn't have like certain biases.
Mhm.
If I was raised there, right? So I was open. You just met an Ethiopian in LA, especially I was born 1980. Like there weren't any Ethiopians here in the 80s and early 90s, right? And so you just met an Ethiopian, you were just happy to meet one, whether they were from Oromo background, Afar background, or anything like that. So there's a lot more to the puzzle that I think here in America we just don't have the information to understand even more depth to that. But there's multiple layers. I won't say that there's a resistance against Egypt or anything like that. It's more of an understanding of, yeah, we are Egypt's ancestors. Like that's who we are, right? So it's more of
Yeah,
an
yeah,
ownership, but it's not really highlighted because Ethiopia is it's focused on its own Christian preservation, even though there's like 60 Orthodox and 40 Islam. It it still, the government and the country is ran as an Orthodox country, Christian country.
oh, okay, okay, yeah, 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 thank you for
You're
that.
welcome.
Yeah, also, like, I think, like, uh it's very important to educate our people, because I know, like, a lot of people, they don't realize that Ethiopia, when you go way back, it's connected to the 25th dynasty, and the 25th dynasty in Sudan, in the
Mhm,
25th dynasty, they were ancient. They were literally ancient Egyptian Kemetic pharaohs who wrote in
mhm,
hieroglyphics, and Ethiopian. I feel that, you know all black all black people from, sub-Saharan Africa or the southern interior of Africa should be called Ethiopians, because that was the word that applied to all of us,
yes,
yeah, and that word connects us. It connects us to ancient Kemet. It starts from
yes,
ancient Kemet, and it spreads, all throughout the African continent.
mhm, mhm.
I think that, it's,
I
it's
agree
very
with that.
important to educate our people on that, because they don't even realize, they put forth hate for
Mhm,
ancient Egypt and ancient Ethiopia, and not even knowing the origin of
right.
that word, and yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. If I may interject, so I don't
Yeah,
forget
go ahead.
what
Then
I
I'm gonna
wanted to
pass it.
say.
After you interject out there, I'm gonna pass it to
Sure.
the final
and
caller. Then
and
go ahead.
that's the reason why I put Kushite in my title, not for to identify me or only the kingdom of Kush, but Kushite people, right? Um, the kingdom of Kush and the dynasty of Kush, yes, is one timestamp of time, but within our area and within that time, we had different clans. So there were, internal demographics within our own people, right? So yes, the people of what we call Sudan now, the people of what we call Egypt now, the people of what we call Eritrea now, the people of what we call Ethiopia now, Somali, Djibouti, right, even Kenya. But what you can find still though, and all the way to the west of Africa. I mean, there's an area of people who claim lineage to Queen of Sheba. I don't doubt that at all, because we were migratory people, we were nomadic people. So all in the Sahara, this was our land, right? And if we're expanding around the world, we don't just expand one place and go and mutate or evolve into looking differently. We also kept this migration and kept this transportation back and forth, right? I use the term Kushite because I also incorporate in my lectures and in my work, helping you self-identify, right? Representation is what heals the heart. When you see yourself, right? So yes, we were, of course, in what is today Israel. Yes, we were in Turkey. Yes, we were in Iraq, Iran, Yemen. And you still will see you melanated people today who are a bloodline of Kushite people, Cushitic people. Um, so yes, I agree with you. It is important to know our history to unify us. So I think some people go into looking for history as a way to divide one person or another. Some people look into reclaiming their history as a way to claim like a level of hierarchy. I think I would encourage us when searching to tap back into your to our African identities to look at it as a unifying ancestor and find yourself in all of these areas.
All right, let me pass the mic to M. Then we'll read the super chat, start closing. Now go ahead and mute yourself, M. Go ahead, M.
Thank you, sir. To the guests, I have a question. A friend of mine, she's always in Nigeria, and she tells me about the shrines. I guess it's secret unless you actually go. They don't really let the world know about their shrines. And I done studied the Bible and the Quran, and I know Moses in the book of Numbers, chapter 12, was married to a Ethiopian. In King James Version, she's called an Ethiopian. In a New World Translation, she's called a Cushite. So I guess they're the same.
Mhm.
But my point is, my question is, do you think, or what is your opinion as far as the purpose of spirituality and religion?
Purpose of both or
Or
the
the function,
differences?
or
Mhm.
the functionality, or you could compare and contrast if you think they're different. Like what
Um,
is it? Why
I,
are we doing this?
I think there's similarities and I think there's also differences. Some might be rooted with the intention of erasure. I think, in my opinion, um, I won't say all religions, because if you consider Buddhism a religion or a spiritual practice, I'm not sure what language you would apply to all of spiritual practices, but focusing on the Abrahamic religions, I would say that those, in my opinion, were created with the erasure of you melanated people and African presence, and for political power and for political gain. Spirituality and leadership or positions of power also went hand in hand. So I think it just shifted in a bit more controlled language and narrative that took our presence outside of it or demonized it. Spirituality, I feel, has different layers. I use spirituality in a way of balance and harmony, but I also use it in a very specific way of talking about me in spirit world, right? Like communicating with spirit worlds. I'm also a medium. So if somebody comes to me in a session and there's a loved one on the other side, I'll communicate with that person on the other side. And, just living in those realms. So spirituality to me could also mean literally the spirit world, um, which I think both entities, spirituality and religion, talk about the spirit world, some direct, some indirect. I think now at its root, I feel that it was just us in balance, in harmony with nature and spirit. is a part of nature, because we know the soul, the spirit, is going to transcend. It's going to go other places. It's been other places. So I think that being in such harmony with nature, we understood that everything has mana, everything has ka, everything has energy, everything has spirit. So they sort of intertwine, but you know, there's always different I won't say just agendas, but different intentions, I suppose, for
So
each.
Let
do
me
you
do
think
this. We're running out of time, so there's a super chat question I need to ask, and then we
Okay,
gotta
sure.
start. We have to start closing out, but appreciate your question, Em.
Thank
okay?
Mrs.
you.
Thank you.
Sandman, thank you for 999
Thank you.
holla. Hi, Kushite Mystic. Modern astronomers say the stars are just suns in distant solar systems. Does that relate to the gods in African spirituality when reading the stars?
I mean, there's so many different cosmologies, so I think respect to each subtle differences in them. Um, you can say that astrology was also used for, you know, cultivating the land and farming and harvesting. Um, what was the last part of that question about the gods? Sorry.
Does that
Does that
relate to the gods in African spirituality when reading the stars?
when reading the stars, does that relate? The difference between those. I feel that, in my opinion, that deities that we've are expressions of principles, and I think you can also see expressions of principles in cosmic principles, right? So you can express principles of behavior, of mindset, of the body, of the physical body, of the spirit, all these, you can find that same reflection in the stars, if that makes sense. So let's say like you can also find properties of animals, expressions through the stars, which we tend to do, right? Like the serious barking dog, right? Or the lion, or all these zodiacs, the Scorpios, these things. So I feel that when we are creating like tangible expressions or physical expressions of a gods or deities or spirit guides, I feel that they are really the essence of principles that can, yes, also be studied in the stars. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
And then last question, Baba Liko 9354. Thank you for $5 holla. Sister, have you ever heard of Brother Polite in Harlem?
I've heard the name, but I wouldn't say that I'm familiar enough, but I've heard the name.
Okay.
I usually I stay pretty, like I said, I cultivate the community of where I am, rather than I have found it actually pretty traumatic and traumatizing to go out into spiritual communities, or I just feel that it doesn't really align, not yet. So
Mhm.
I try to build the community where I am, but I've
Mhm.
heard of the name.
All right. So spiritofthenow.org. Tell us about your
Yes.
site. How else can people reach you? What else you offer? Your book.
Thank you. Um, I'll start with my book because I forget to to plug this. I just
Mhm.
wrote it as a release for myself, you know, and
Mm.
then when I printed it and I saw, I was like, "Whoa, that's a lot." And then I realized that, okay, through people's testimonies, that it is something that is very valuable, has been very valuable and teachable for others. So it is my life story from birth till, like I said, my 40s, and just my journey of becoming who I am and what I am. I say Kushite mystic healer. I am a Zar spirit healer, so, and a soul retriever, which someone might call a shaman. I struggle with labels, and I try to just describe what the work is, because it could
Mhm.
be a different expression in a different language, right? Like this goes back to the division of names and what we call this spirituality, what we call this, right? So, what I do in my practice is I scan your timeline. I see where, clairvoyantly see where your a piece of your soul has extracted from your body, and I go and retrieve that soul with compassion, put it back into your body so that you are whole soul. I also see if there's any other essence or energy that's there or present, any energy blockages, any physical illnesses that I can assist with in helping to reverse. I can't claim to heal everything. I'm not, you know, the creator, but I am a example of I
Well,
am.
at least you're honest.
Yeah, yes.
Some people
I
they
definitely don't
claim to
want
make
to
sure
sell
everything. Yeah.
something that I can't. Yeah, yeah. You definitely don't want to upsell yourself. Like, be honest, right? And some things are honestly aren't curable. You know, when it's your time, is your time. Then there's if I do see that there is a spirit attachment to you, I don't approach those with anger or aggression. I approach those also the same way, with compassion and gentleness, and removing it from the body, helping that spirit understand, or asking that spirit, are you aware that you're hurting the host? Is that intentional, or were you not aware? A lot of times these spirits aren't aware, and then they go forward into the light or go on about their business. Every once in a blue moon, you get one that is a bit difficult and realize that it is wreaking havoc and wants to wreak havoc. And that's when I have to call in some bigger guns of light to kind of incinerate it. Yeah, energy work, again, the mindset of our community. I also teach nurturing parenting. I'm a nurturing parenting facilitator. I've been a child care provider for 26 years. So I've implanted myself to work with children because I've found in these first few years of whether you're a man or female, I mean, excuse me, a male or female, that that childhood trauma you spend an adulthood trying to reverse. So protecting our children, speaking life into our children, imagination into our children is so important. I think that is everything.
Okay.
The book is a talisman. I tell people it'll spark. It's also a living, breathing entity of its own. It
Mhm.
will spark something inside of you, and if not, it could, maybe answer some questions that you might have about an experience you might have had. Something that a place where you don't have necessarily in our community to talk about the paranormal, to talk about extraterrestrial experiences and these things. So you can find a place of I don't know, comfort in that book too.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share,
Thank
subscribe.
you.
Make sure you
Thank
guys go
you.
to spiritoftheNile.org.
Yes. I
Um,
also offer virtual sessions as well. Like energy, it doesn't matter of borders or distance of time, right? So I session one-on-one in person. I have events. I have also a residency at Flavors from Afar once a month, where I do a czar performative dance
mhm.
and trance interpretation, if you like to experience that, and also traditional coffee ceremony. And yeah, if not, I'm very personable. Feel free to send me a DM on Instagram, Ethio Flower. Um, yeah, thank you.
Everyone, thank
Thank you so
no
much.
problem. Anytime. Everyone, thanks so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. Peace.
Yes. Yes.